Sorry guys, I forgot to adjust the camera before I set this up. Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. It's Saturday, it's weekend kickoff, it's a hell of a day. Yeah, it's a hell of a day. Thank you for understanding my sudden last-minute cancellation of stream last night. I mean, the news obviously started dropping like maybe 15 minutes before I was going to start the stream, and I just was like, I need time to process this. I can't. I don't feel like I can process and teach at the same time. So, and you know, I still don't feel particularly processed, but I do, however, feel that it is more important than ever for us to have a space to join together and to have a space where we take care of ourselves so that we can take care of everything that we need to take care of in our lives and in our communities and in our countries as a whole. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg died yesterday. This is for, I guess, posterity in the YouTube VOD. 87 years old, still writing, Supreme Court documents from her hospital bed with her what feels like billionth run with cancer. Her judicial record is, I'm sure, far more varied than it became in popular culture. You know, she sort of became an icon and a meme and notorious RBG. But she was an icon. I mean, she made history being appointed to the Supreme Court. That was a huge historical thing. She made history just by going to law school and committing herself to an industry and a field that was so steeped in sexist opinions about what women could or could not do, and she made history, and she should never have had the weight of democracy on her shoulders like this. She should have been able to step back from the court and get treatment in peace and be with her family and take care of herself, but she didn't, because she and everyone else sort of recognized this single point of failure on the court, for lack of a better word, which, let me tell you, as a producer and project manager, single points of failure are bad planning and bad infrastructure, and if you have them, then you need to change the system. And obviously, this year, if it has done nothing else, has shown us how much we need to change the system. And this is another reminder of that. It's a weird day, my friends. But in her memory, and because I think it is more important than ever for us to be clear about where we stand and who we stand with. I stand with the diversity that makes this or any country a better place. I stand firmly against white supremacy and police brutality. I am firmly pro-choice. I support and do my best to be a constructive ally and accomplice to Black people in America, to BIPOC, to disabled people, to people who have different sexual orientations, gender, trans people, just the rainbow of human experience and human presentation. I think that is beautiful. I was raised to find that beautiful. And I was raised to fight for that. And I haven't done a good job of that as an adult. I definitely have sat on my heels for a long time, not necessarily felt like there was work to do or like it was work that I was needed for, and I've been coming to terms with that a lot over the last 4 years. And, you know, we all need to be doing this work. It doesn't matter if you think other people are doing it, if you think that it was already done. It wasn't. Steps have been taken, absolutely, but there is more that has to be done. But I also believe that in order for us to take on the challenges that are being thrown at us right now, that we need to take care of ourselves. Part of that's being here, and that's why you're here. And that's why I'm here. You know, it's not because I woke up this morning and was like, oh man, I'm really jazzed to teach class today. But I know that I need this. And I know that you all do too. So we're going to work out for an hour. We're going to use this as an opportunity to strengthen ourselves, to improve our stamina, to take all of that energy, all of that internal screaming or external screaming, and channel it into an hour where you can really razor focus down on just physical sensation. And at the end of that hour, we're gonna hydrate, eat some food, breathe, and figure out what we do next. Okay? So, thanks for being with me here on this very strange and sad morning. Happy New Year to all of my beloved Jewish friends and followers. Let's dedicate this class to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May her memory be a blessing. So, my patter is going to be really weird today, my friends. It feels so strange to be doing any of my, usual verbal tics. But pre-class checklist is still important, no matter how weird the world is. So please make sure that you have a large bottle of water or vessel of water right next to you, okay? Make sure that you are drinking it throughout class. Every time that we have a break, I want you to be sipping from that water bottle, okay? And I want that water bottle to be empty by the end of class. And then I want you to go immediately over to your sink and refill it and start drinking from it again, okay? Now more than ever, we need to make sure that we're hydrating ourselves. I want you to have your comfiest exercise clothes on, all right? We're in our living rooms. There's no one to impress. There's no one who's looking at us and judging us. So if you want to be in spandex moisture wicking clothes today, that's obviously what I went with. If you want to be in a t-shirt and shorts, do it, okay? Make sure that you have your mat set out, a mat-sized space for exercising. And if you are using a fitness wearable, we're going to turn them on right now for high-intensity interval training. And we're going to get started. My friends. So we are going to... I'm going to have to start talking more loudly because I'm moving away from the microphone. Of all the weird reasons to need a better audio setup. Oh, hang on. Turn on my speaker. Wanting to talk quietly on a day like this is certainly not one that I was expecting to deal with, but... So we are on our backs, on our mats, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee, and we are going to do hip rocks and bridges. So starting here, and remember, when you're doing the hip rock, you are engaging your core. This is our first opportunity to engage our core to try and really lift those hips up off the ground. So I'm not actually, I feel like people frequently feel like they need to push against the ground to initiate that hip rock. I'm not pushing against the ground. If I lift my arms up, I can still make that movement because I'm generating it from my core engagement. Okay, so this is a good first opportunity for you to check in on your core, and this is an opportunity to really see how your strength is. You know, try lifting your arms totally off the ground and doing that hip rock and seeing if you can do that, okay? Or if your hips don't want to come off the ground. And that will tell you something, all right? Switch feet, still doing the same thing. That will tell you a little bit about how your core strength is, and whether when we've been doing core exercises, you have been really engaging with that muscle group, or if you've been compensating with other areas, such as trying to push against the ground to push your hips up. So if you have, I want you to really challenge yourself. I want you to keep your arms off the ground, and I want you to really focus on, I'm going to contract those core muscles and use that to lift up my hips and legs. Even if I can't go far, I'm not going particularly far here, okay? We're not needing to go super high off the ground. This is the warm-up. All right, let us roll onto one side and start our leg sequence. So starting with the Jane Fonda, remember that we have 2 more leg exercises on this side before we switch to the other side, so don't go rolling immediately over. Remember that we are going for a nice straight line of the body, okay? So if you're having trouble feeling whether you are in a straight line, use the edge of your mat to line yourself up, and then really focus on how that feels. Get a sense spatially of where you are, all right? That's one of the most useful skills that you can cultivate in class, is spatial awareness, not only of what is around you, but of where your limbs are in space, okay? Now take that top foot, put it flat on the floor in front of that bottom knee. We are lifting the bottom leg up and down. So our aspirational position is with the knee pointing straight up towards the ceiling and that foot flat on the floor. So if your knee is caving in, then you may need to engage the muscles in your hip socket to try and pull that knee backwards and point it up towards the ceiling. if it is caving, it's not the end of the world because we don't have any pressure on this leg, okay? So this is the opportunity for you to really dig in and feel what it feels like to engage those muscles and pull that knee back, okay? When there's no adverse consequences for the knee caving a little bit. Once we get to squats, that's not going to be the case anymore, okay? So now we are going to take that top foot, put it behind the bottom knee, and keep lifting that bottom leg. This is our most relaxed position here. We don't really have to worry about our balance because this leg is in a nice, easy position to maintain that balance. We're no longer worried about our hips really rolling anywhere because they're sort of nicely trapped in this position. So we can really just focus on lifting this leg, feeling the sensation of the muscles engaging and contracting, feeling how that impacts other muscle groups. You should feel a little bit of residual engagement in the lower corner of your core, of your abs. And check in on your foot, on the working leg, and just see what you default to when you're doing this exercise. As I've said, I don't really care if your foot is flexed, neutral, or pointed, but the more information you know about yourself, the better you will be at this class. All right, we are on our second side now. Going back to Jane Fonda, still lifting that top leg. Remember to engage the glute on the working leg, not so that you're pulling the leg backwards, okay? You just want to engage it, and that will sort of bring the leg in line with the body. If you haven't been doing that, and when you first start doing it, it will kind of feel like you are pulling your leg too far behind you. For a while, I honestly sort of misunderstood what I was supposed to be doing, and I was actively pulling my leg behind me because I was like, oh, that's what the sensation is supposed to be. It's not. All you need to do is engage that glute, and it will do the work. You don't actually have to pull the leg backwards. All right, second exercise, foot flat on the floor, knee pointing up towards the ceiling, lifting that bottom leg. Again, if your knee has a tendency to cave forward, as mine certainly does much more on this side, then I want you to make sure that you are engaging the muscles in that hip and pulling the knee back so that it's in a more upright, stable position, pointing up towards the ceiling. Still lifting that bottom leg. Again, don't worry about how you are holding that foot. It's okay flexed, it's okay neutral, it's okay pointed. Just, have that information. So if I ever, met you in real life and went, hey, how do you like to hold your foot during this part of the warm-up, you would have an answer. All right, now take that top foot, put it behind the bottom knee. We are on our last leg exercise before we move into warming up our backs and our hips with some active stretching. So this is our last leg exercise. And again, we're in a nice stable position. We're not really worried about rolling anywhere. We're just lifting that leg because we've got the stability here, which allows the leg to just sort of do its thing without us having to worry about a bunch of additional components. So always try and find the exercises that are less complex, and just really appreciate them as opportunities to sort of let your brain have a moment where it doesn't have to think too much about all of the different components of form, and it can just take a quick break before moving on to something slightly more complex, like, say, scorpion twists. So we are planting those forearms. Those forearms do not come off the ground for any reason, okay? And if you can't twist all the way with your foot flat on the floor and your knee pointing up towards the ceiling without one of your elbows coming up, then you are not able to twist that far yet, and that is fine, okay? Remember, especially today, you know, I have a feeling that many of us are going to have a tendency to want to push ourselves really hard, and to a certain extent, that's awesome, because I think we all have some energy and emotions that we need to get out, but do not lose sight of the fact that you still want to be safe, okay? You don't want to be putting yourself in the path of injury. So keep that in mind, even as you go for a little additional power and intensity today. I want you to still make sure that you've got your form down pat so that you are keeping yourself as safe as possible while you challenge yourself, all right? And that's the balancing act, is challenging ourselves while keeping ourselves safe as possible. You know, there is no way to prevent 100% of potential injuries. You know, sometimes you're just going to injure yourself despite all your best efforts, but that doesn't mean that you don't still want to learn all of the tricks that you can for moving safely and with power. All right, we're still holding our imaginary PVC pipe up above our heads as we start doing our first run of squats. I'm gonna turn on the AC fans because it's a little warm in here. All right, so remember, knees going straight over the feet, okay? Not caving in towards one another. If you cannot do this without your knees caving in towards each other, narrow your stance and practice here. Strengthen here. Get to a point where you're like, okay, I can easily do this without having to worry about my knees going somewhere unsafe. Now I will re-widen and practice here, now that I've got a little additional strength going, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, throwing down our imaginary poles. Now we're doing Samson stretches. So nice big opening of the hip flexors. Remember that we are keeping our hips pointing forward, the whole time. So when you bring that leg back, you don't want to be pulling your hip back around with it. You want your hips to be pointing forward the whole time, like they have headlights on them, and they should be pointing forward the whole time. And it's an active stretch, so we don't want to stay too long in each position, but do try to take a second to settle, sink down a little bit before stepping back up to that front leg and going on the other side. All right, now coming down into this nice wide squat position, and hands on our knees. That'll help them. It's a turned out squat position, so having our hands on our knees will help keep our knees safely over our feet, which is still what we want to do, no matter where we are. We still want our knees safely over our feet. So if you're struggling with that, even with your hands on your knees, then one of the things you can do is just not turn your feet out as far, okay? That is totally fine. So the only thing that we're moving are our shoulders as we twist them, getting a nice twist in the upper back. First one shoulder in towards the midline, then the other. Everything else is staying nice and stable while we twist. All right, we've reached the cardio portion, the portion where I realized that I drank way too much tea, way too close to class. And again, we are still not punching up to 100% yet, okay? We're still booting up our system. So this is the last component of that. This is our opportunity to get our heart rate going a little bit, to get our breath coming a little bit faster and to just go, okay, here we are. We're going to be exercising. We're going to be working hard. All of my systems have booted up. I've got my brain ready to send those electrical signals down to my muscles. I've got my muscles activating the breakdown of fuel sources to get those energy production systems going. I'm bringing in more oxygen, sending it more quickly through my body. I am ready. All right, kick-throughs. Remember, for kick-throughs, complex exercise, lots of components, slow and steady if you're still learning it, okay? So when I kick that foot and that leg across my body, I want to make sure the standing leg is 90-degree angle, knee pointing up towards the ceiling, not letting the butt come down towards the floor and not letting that knee cave in. All right, nice, stable position so that when I go through the center and to the other side, I am not putting a lot of unhealthy torquing pressures on my knee as I do that twist, okay? And for our supporting arm, we want that shoulder as close to over the wrist as possible. All right, here we are at the end of our warm-up. We're doing our burpees. So make sure you're doing a wave push-up, not a plank push-up, and you're doing a nice big victory clap up at the top there. Keep those elbows right in by the sides as you do that push-up, not letting them fan out anywhere. And just keep breathing, which is harder to stop doing when you're doing cardio stuff, but it's always a good reminder. Keep breathing, my friends. It is so important. All right, there we go. Good job. We are warmed up. Time to come back to the water vessel and have some water, okay? Oh, yeah. I'm gonna be fitness mom voicing a lot more in this class for obvious reasons, all right? There's a lot of grief and there's a lot of fear, and we can't minimize that, and we shouldn't minimize that. There are a lot of very real and clear and present dangers to significant portions of this country. This country being the United States, which is where I am currently based. And it's scary. It's really scary. And it makes it all the more important that we not neglect the basic components of taking care of ourselves. Think of this. So, when you're new to class and you come take class for the first time, what do I tell you? I tell you that if you've never done class before, or if you're coming back to class after an absence, that all I want you to do and focus on is the bare minimum. Starting on time, stopping on time, doing the exercise correctly. Because if you focus on that, you will be doing more than enough work for the class, okay? This is basically the outside of class version of that, all right? We need to be able to do at least the bare minimum. Hydrate, eat food, get sleep, okay? We may not have the energy or the capacity for any more than that right now, okay? We are scared, we are sad, Don't minimize that. Don't shove it away. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. But please, please promise me that you will try for the bare minimum. Water, food, sleep, okay? Taking care of ourselves, taking care of the super basic requirements of continuing to exist in our human form so that we can have that foundation to then challenge ourselves, push ourselves, do the work that we need to do, okay? So today, over the course of the week, if we achieve nothing else, let's try to achieve the bare minimum: water, food, sleep, okay? All right, speaking of. All right, we're gonna do a really quick Tabata run. So just 20 seconds of work to 10 seconds of rest. 3 exercises. The first one is going to be a held sumo squat. So we just did this in the warm-up, but we are not going to have our hands on our knees this time. So still turned out. So turned out basically means that if I'm standing in this position, instead of my feet pointing straight forward, they are pointing out at a diagonal. I figure I'll clarify that because turned out is more dance terminology than necessarily frequently used in fitness, so it's possible that it might not always be clear when I say that. So turned out, wide squat, keeping those knees directly over the feet, not letting them cave in, engage the muscles in those hip sockets, and just press your forearms together. Keep your arms here. Keep your back as straight as possible. It's not going to be fully up and down. There's going to be a little bit of a diagonal, but you don't want to be hunching over. You want flat back and not folded too far, okay? Second exercise is going to be shrimps. So I always turn my mat for these so I can better demonstrate them. So we're moving back and forth along our mats by first rocking our shoulders, then hips. Shoulders, then hips. Shoulders, then hips. Oh no, I hit the end of my mat. Time to go back in the opposite direction. All right? And then our third exercise is going to be side-to-side planks. So we will start in a front plank position, shoulders directly over wrists, butts out of the air. Let those heels drop to one side. Come up on that arm. Extend the other arm up towards the ceiling. Look up there, hold for a second, let the judges see it. Then back through and to the other side, and go back and forth and back and forth. All right? So those are our 3 exercises. Held sumo squat, shrimps, and side-to-side planks. 20 seconds of work is not a long time, so we're not going to be spending a ton of time doing these exercises. So you want to start on time, definitely, because you don't want to waste a second of the available time. So when you hear the knocking sound, get in position, all right? So that as soon as you hear the first notes of that fanfare, you are doing the exercise, all right? And that way, we can be sure that we are using the entire 20 seconds for the exercise and not losing any of that time to, oh, I gotta adjust, I gotta get myself together, all right? So we are moving, we're getting a little bit of a rest, but we are also moving quickly and with alacrity, one might say, from exercise to exercise. For something like the shrimps, we can go for a little bit of speed. We can see how quickly we can move from one side to the other. How many times can I make it back and forth across my mat? Okay? All right, now prepping for planks. Hey, here we are. We don't need to move super quickly on these because we want to make sure that our shoulders are fully engaged, they are strong, they are stable. But if you've been doing them for a while, you will notice that you can ensure all of that stability with a little additional speed that you might not have been able to do previously. All right, we're coming back around for our second time through. So back in that held sumo squat, 20 seconds is not a lot of time. Usually, for an exercise like this, I would give a much longer workout interval. So I really want you to be paying attention to getting set up, fully set up before that start horn goes, okay? That's why we have the knocking sound, because that gives us the opportunity to go, all right, I need to be in position. When I hear that knock, I know I only have 5 seconds to get where I need to go to start the next exercise, okay? And starting on time is, as I previously mentioned, one of the bare minimum requirements, okay? The tripod of the bare minimum, starting on time, stopping on time, so not stopping the exercise until you hear that final bell or horn, and then form. Even on a day like today, even when we're struggling, we're grieving, we're angry, we have all of this pent-up energy, and we want to be using it, channeling it into class, and we should be, okay? We absolutely should be. That is a great use of class today, but we still need to be doing the exercise correctly. We still need to make sure that we have those safety protocols in place so that we are taking care of ourselves as much as possible. We are being as safe as possible. We are not so focused on using up all of this energy that we set ourselves up for an injury that is not going to help us, and it's not going to help vulnerable people, the people that we love, the people that we're worried for, which may or may not include ourselves. It is not going to help any of them if we end up injuring ourselves in our zest for strength and stamina. So as you are here on the mat today, as you are doing class, really getting all that energy out, I want you to keep reminding yourself of that all through this hour, okay? Please, please do not let this give you an internal excuse to be unsafe or reckless with how you're doing the exercises. I still want you to be doing that bare minimum, okay? It's hard. Even in the best of circumstances, it's a hard line because, the fact of the matter is, when we get into those plateau places, we need to challenge ourselves. We need to push ourselves and push ourselves a little bit beyond our current capacity. Not technically, I feel, because if you can do a thing, then it's not actually beyond your current capacity. But we have a lot of mental blocks, and stamina is a huge thing if our muscles are not used to, maintaining a certain position or maintaining that level of strength over an extended period of time. So we do have to challenge ourselves. We do have to be able to push past our comfort zone. Absolutely. And so it can feel really confusing and counterintuitive to remember that we also need to be safe, and we need to make sure that we're not trying to load too much onto ourselves too quickly, okay? Like, someone like Dwayne Johnson did not get that physique by pushing immediately past his comfort zone. He has an incredibly regimented fitness habit process, and his includes a lot of dietary stuff as well, and he has very specific goals around building up big amounts of muscle. That's not who I am, obviously, and that's not how I teach. I teach for exercise to be a useful and ongoing component of a healthy life. But finding that balance between challenging ourselves, not letting ourselves get held in or held back by, oh, well, this is comfortable and challenging myself is scary, so I'm just going to stay here. But also making sure that we have a foundation that is strong and that we have built up deliberately so that we can then challenge ourselves going forward. It's a hell of a balancing act, okay? And if you're struggling to find that line, it's totally understandable. I struggle with that line all the time, all right? But I want you to at least keep both of those concepts in your head and be reminding yourself of both of them. Remind yourself that, yes, you want to challenge yourself, absolutely. You want to show yourself what you can do because it's amazing and you will impress yourself, but you also want to make sure that you are starting from a foundation, from a base that is strong, that is stable, and that can support you as you go and challenge yourself, okay? All right. So now we're going to do another Tabata. This one will be 30 seconds of work to 10 seconds of rest. And here are our exercises. Let me flip the map around. So first is going to be penchés. If you haven't taken class with me before, dance terminology, I default to it when I don't have a better name for things. So we're going to step forward onto one foot, flat on the floor, and keeping our backs straight and like basically a nice straight line that goes all the way from the crown of my head to the tips of my toes. And I'm just going to come forward, try and create essentially a T shape, then step back up onto the other foot and on the other side. And we're just going to go back and forth between those two positions. Second exercise, chaturanga to downward dog. My standard caveat, I am not a yoga teacher, so this is not precisely the position that you would expect from a yoga class. So we're going to start in plank position. Come down as if we're doing a push-up. When we get down about an inch off the floor, leave the hips down towards the floor, extend the arms so that the chest comes up towards the ceiling, then push back into a downward dog, back to the plank, up, push back, over and over. And our third exercise is going to be boat rocks, which is a great exercise if you're still struggling with shrimps. So we're going to balance up on our tailbones, and I want you to round your back, your lower back. So contract your abs. A good way to practice that is just sort of mock punch yourself in the stomach and see what your core naturally does. It naturally goes and contracts and pulls your stomach away from the fist and sort of curves out your lower back, because what we're going to be doing is rocking back onto our back and then back up into that balance. So you want to hold that curve the whole time so that you can roll and then roll right back up. Because if your back is straight, then you'll just sort of flop onto the ground like a beached turtle. Okay, so penchés, chaturanga to downward dog, and boat rocks. Let's get back to our mats. Remember, 30 seconds of work to 10 seconds of rest. So we're adding 10 seconds in to the amount of work that we're doing. Okay, so be prepared for that. We're still having the same 10-second rest. So knock, knock, knock. We need to get ready, get set, and go. Okay, so I want you to be going slow and steady on these. I don't want you to be going for speed. This is balance and stamina. Make sure you are engaging your core. So you are controlling the weight of your torso. You're engaging your glute to control the weight of the leg that's lifting. And those two muscle groups together are keeping this form nice and stable so that the ankle doesn't have to do a ton of work to maintain the balance, okay? All right, now down to our chaturanga. I really should figure out another name for it that doesn't co-opt yoga terminology. So if you have any recommendations, put it in the chat or in the YouTube comments if that's where you're watching this VOD. But we are, again, not necessarily going for speed. We're just going for constant and consistent movement, okay? And still keeping our elbows close by our sides when we're doing the half push-up. All right, boat rocks. So this is an exercise that it can be really easy to do this exercise without actually using the muscle group. So I want you to really focus on engaging that core. And if you do not actually feel fatigue in your core by the end of this set, not this specific set, but by the end of this full timer, then know that you are probably not actually engaging your core while you do that exercise. Ab exercises are some of the easiest ones for us to try and compensate with totally different muscle groups or areas of the body. We talked about that a little bit in the warm-up, but it is so true. And there are very few exercises that really it's not possible for you to do them while compensating with other muscle groups. So I talk about it a lot when we do ab exercises because, man, if you've taken class with me for a while, you know how important I think that the core is as a stabilizing muscle group, as a muscle group that helps to, it's basically a hub. It helps to connect, our torso, this big mass with wobbly arms and a head, and our legs, which are sort of going all over the place. Our core can tie all of that together. So if we're doing balances or if we're moving through the air, our core engaged helps us to always have control over where our limbs are in space. Probably some of this just comes from the fact that I've been a dancer since I was 5, and obviously core work is very important in most dance genres, but I do think it translates to a class like this, and I really like to focus in on it, and I like to remind you that you really need to focus on, am I actually using that muscle group? And if you're not, there are exercises I can give you that, like I said, are harder to futz with. You know, you can't really get away with like pulling your neck forward or pushing with your arms against something. All right, last time through. So last time for these penchés, you also want to make sure that your hips, again, are staying flat. So they're just sort of tipping forward towards the ground. You don't want them to be opening up towards the leg that's lifting, okay? So really check in as you go over and go, do I still feel like my pelvic bones are pointing down at the ground, or are they, am I in a weird side position now, okay? Coming back to our chaturangas, nice. Remember, when you do that push-up down, you are not bringing your body into full contact with the floor. You're coming down to maybe an inch off the floor, but my hips
my chest, none of that is actually touching the ground before I then extend my arms, bring my chest up towards the ceiling, and then push against those hands into the downward dog, okay? So always keep that in mind when we're doing that exercise. All right, last time for those boat rocks. So again, make sure you are checking in with your abs. Make sure that you have them engaged, that is the reason why you were able to roll back on your back and then back up into that balance, because you have your core engaged and you have that round in your lower back, okay? It should be because of your abs. All right. Okay. How are we doing, friends? How are we doing? I'm gonna take a quick drink of water. Like I said, every time we're on a rest, come back to this, okay? Well, the good news is, look, let's talk a little bit about good news, because doom scrolling is a very real phenomenon, and it can get in our way. And I do it. I mean, like last night when the news broke, it was very hard to get myself off of Twitter and not just scrolling constantly, looking for sad headlines. So let's take an opportunity to talk about good things. My very dear friend Amanda, who's a mod in this channel, you've definitely seen her in the chat. She and her husband, their cat fell out of a window 8 weeks ago and has been missing for 8 weeks. And 2 days ago they got her back. She finally ventured into a trap that they had set, and she's home, and a little malnourished, a little dehydrated, but not too much the worse for wear, which is just so exciting. The air quality in Boulder is better today than it was the last few days, which is nice. Hopefully that will allow for a little bit of sitting outside, and that's really good. And this month, I don't know the exact day. I should probably figure that out at some point. I've been streaming for 6 months now, which is wild. And, it can be really hard to balance so many conflicting emotions. And, there have been so many horrible things this year, and a lot of things that feel like they have been taken away, both in the world and, in personally. But this stream, this class, doing this work with you all, getting to gather here and work out and chat and, build community together, this has been an unequivocal good in my life, and I'm really grateful for it. And I'm really grateful for everybody who watches these streams, either live or in VODs. And I'm gonna be, pushing into a new phase, I think, soon. There's gonna be some fun announcements coming up. And I'm really grateful and that I've been given the opportunity to do this. And so thank you all for being here and for doing this with me. I appreciate it. I really do. Okay.
All right, we're gonna do an AMRAP, my friends. 5 minutes, 3 exercises. You get to decide when and how you switch between them. Okay? So we're gonna have, what are our 3 exercises? Our 3 exercises are going to be, first, mat jumps. I'm gonna move my instrument, which I have definitely kicked before on this stream, and don't want to do that again. So we are gonna stand on one foot on one side of our mat. So if I'm on the left-hand side of my mat, I'm standing on my left foot. My right leg is crossed behind me, not really taking much weight. I'm really focusing the weight on this front leg. And I'm going to jump to the other side of my mat, and I'm just gonna go back and forth. Again, really focus on that spatial awareness. I have a breakfast tray on the floor just out of sight of the camera, so I need to make sure that I'm not kicking that. When you land, you can bring a hand down, but again, we're not putting weight on it. It's just for balance. So you can sort of bring that hand down like that. All right, second exercise. Second exercise is going to be kick-throughs. So you know kick-throughs, we did them in the warm-up. And then third exercise is going to be pulsed front superhero. So lying flat on our stomachs, legs and arms extended out, and we're lifting legs, arms, and chest off the floor, bringing them down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay? So those are our 3 exercises. Side-to-side mat jumps, kick-throughs, and pulsing superheroes. Pulsing? Ugh. Anyway. All right. So remember, AMRAP timer means that you start as soon as you hear the horn, but also means that you can change between these exercises whenever you want to. All right? I am not going to be telling you when to change. So get on your mats, and in 5 seconds, we are gonna get started. Hey, so yeah, I'm not gonna tell you when to switch between exercises. You get that power, and sometimes it can be really nice to have a little bit of extra power. So things to keep in mind. You do have to do all of the exercises, okay? You can't just hit on one exercise and be like, okay, I'm just gonna do this for the 5 minutes. That's all I really wanna do. You do have to cycle through them all. You don't have to spend a ton of time on them, okay? So if you're like, all right, that's enough on the kick-throughs, I'm gonna move on to the pulsing front superheroes, that's totally fine, all right? You are in control. You do have to keep moving the whole time, all right? This is a perpetual motion timer, so you need to make sure that at all points you are either doing an exercise or you are getting into position to start the next exercise. So those are the 2 major requirements. Perpetual motion, so not ever stopping, being like, all right, I'm gonna take a break, or like moving really slowly into position. You know, you really want to be minimizing the amount of time that it takes you to go from one exercise to the other. And you have to do all 3 of them. Again, you don't have to do a ton of reps, and that's where the control comes in and is really nice. Because if you're like, I am really not crazy about side-to-side mats, give me 5 reps, maybe 10, and then switch to the next one. But you always want to do at least a few reps, even of an exercise that you're not crazy about, because that's how we get better, you know? And having this timer is a really good opportunity for us to
have those challenge points where we're like, okay, with great power comes great responsibility. That was our halfway horn. Don't change a thing. Just know that we're halfway through the 5 minutes. With great power comes great responsibility. So I have the power to only do 2 reps of, these front superheroes before I move forward. But if my goal is strengthening myself, challenging myself, and keeping myself healthy and fit, then I have the responsibility to say, okay, maybe I'm not going to do a ton of reps of this, but let me try and do at least 5. If I did 5 the last time I did a timer like this, maybe this time I'm going to try and do 7 or 10. Challenge yourself to just add a couple of reps on each time you come back, and that is one of the ways that we learn to really challenge ourselves, even when it's hard and even when we're not feeling like it's pleasant. With the flip side always being that we also need to remember and honor the incredible importance of resting and of listening to our bodies too. So, it could be that I dislike kick-throughs just because, we frequently end up with exercises that we're not crazy about. Or it could be that I dislike kick-throughs because I've had a lot of shoulder issues, and so I get a little worried when I am doing them that I'm going to exacerbate that. So listen to your body, and if you're doing the exercise and you're like, something feels off, then switch to the next one, okay? You are the person living in your body, and you know your body, and you are the one who gets to make that determination to go, okay, my body's actually trying to tell me something, and I need to listen to it, okay? Important, really, really important. We are so bad at taking care of ourselves. We get into this rise and grind mindset, and it's everywhere. And there's so much that needs to be done. There's so many people that need to be protected. There's so many fights that need to be fought. And we want to do it all. We do. And it's good to do as much as we can, but it's also good to remember that we cannot do everything, and that we become less and less effective the less that we rest, the less that we make time that does not have to be productive, that does not have to, fit into a system of capitalist output. We need rest just as much. We don't need to monetize all of our habits, all of our hobbies. You can learn to paint without immediately going, oh, so when am I opening my Etsy store? You can exercise without going, okay, so let me, look up this list of races in my area. Take care of yourself, okay? And that means rest just as much as it means exercise. Hell, that's why I'm taking a vacation week coming up soon. All right. Make sure you've had some water. Our last 10 minutes are going to be 10 minutes of toe squats, okay? So, we know our process for toe squats. Feet about hip width apart. I'm going to show you from the side. Trying to keep our backs as straight up and down as possible, as we squat, letting our heels naturally come off the floor when they need to, coming all the way down to this position, and then standing back up, letting our heels naturally come back down to the floor. And we're just going down and up and down and up. Make sure your core is engaged, controlling the weight of the torso, because we're coming down into this position and all of the balancing is being done by our ankles and the balls of our feet, not even the whole foot. So we have a lot less surface area for this balance. And if you're not controlling the weight of all the other areas of your body, then, you know, my torso starts going somewhere I don't expect. Suddenly best case scenario, I fall over. Worst case scenario, I fall over and injure myself. So make sure that core is engaged the whole time. Do not let gravity take control of the exercise. And let's just give ourselves 10 minutes of toe squats. You can take breaks, but remember that you do need to do the same number of reps before each break. So if you do 20 reps and then you're like, okay, it's break time, cool. You are now doing 20 reps before each break. If you do 50 reps and then you're like, okay, it's break time, awesome. Now please do 50 reps before each break. If you can go the whole 10 minutes, I mean, it's really exciting when you do that for the first time. So if you can, let me know and I will cheer, because awesome. All right, everybody on your mats, get ready. Take those feet hip width apart, core engaged, and we're going. All right. I can tell I'm a little distracted because my first rep each time, even when I was demonstrating, I did not have my core fully engaged, and so my balance was a little bit off and I was a little bit shaky, okay? So really focus in. Again, make sure that foundation is solid. Make sure that foundation is not going anywhere, all right? We need you to have a strong base so that you have the strength and the stamina and the power to keep doing this exercise and taking care of yourself. When you get to the point where you're ready to take a quick break, stretching can be a really nice thing to do, especially if this exercise is still relatively new to you. It's probably a lot more intense, and I remember how that feels. So recommendations of stretches. Quad stretch, obviously, just take that foot, bring it up into your hand, pull it into your butt as close as you can get until you really feel that stretch along the top of the quad. You can put your hand on a counter or on a wall for balance, or you can just, balance, but if you're struggling with the balance, put a hand on something to steady yourself so that you can really just focus on the stretch itself and not stretch plus balance. Calves, stretching calves, another good one. So imagine that there's a wall in front of me, because this is more effective if you can push against a wall, but I can't reach my wall. So I'm just going to pretend. I'm going to bring one foot behind me, and I want that heel to drive all the way down to the floor. This is where the wall can come in handy. So if you can get the heel almost all the way down, but not fully, push against that wall, strongly but slowly, and just push that heel down. And you're keeping this leg as straight as possible. You will feel that calf stretch. You will probably notice differences on each side in terms of how far you need to bring that leg back behind you in order to feel the stretch, okay? So for some of you, you may just need to bring it back here. And you're like, ooh, I'm feeling that stretch. That's fine. Don't try and shove yourself way back just because I'm doing it, all right? Everybody has different levels of flexibility in different muscles in different areas. And again, it's important for you to know what is right for your body, not for my body. And then final good stretch, because especially when you're first starting out with toe squats, you definitely will feel a lot of cramping start to build up in the arch of your foot, just because we keep coming up onto the balls of our feet over and over again. So just to kind of reverse that movement, stretch out a little bit, just roll over the tops of your toes. And you're not putting like weight on that, just put a little bit of pressure. You will feel the stretch go up the top of the foot and along the shin, okay? And that is a really nice way to sort of balance out the intense pressure on the foot with this one movement, and to get a little bit of stretch along your shin, because your shin's doing a lot of work in this exercise that we may not always pay enough attention to. So here we are, we're doing our toe squats. Hopefully you have perfected the art of counting while your teacher is chattering on at you. That is an art that it took me ages to develop, because a lot of us have sensory processing stuff and audio processing stuff, and it can be really complicated to count something in our heads when there is external auditory stimuli. So things that you can do. Hey, you're in your living room, you can count out loud. You don't have to be counting in your head. You can count out loud. You're the only one there. So, hey, that's our halfway horn, my friends. So if you need to count 1, 2, 3 to keep yourself on track while I'm talking, that's totally fine. All right? If you need to tune me out completely, that's also fine. That's the beauty of doing class on Twitch, is that you have that power. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Keep in mind, the goal obviously is do the same number of reps each time. The complication is having to count that out while the stream is going in the background. There are so many ways that we can solve this. Counting out loud, turning down the volume on the stream so you don't have to pay, super close attention to me if that's going to help you on that counting. Just really focusing in and being like, okay, I'm going to learn this skill. That's, a way to do it. Many of us do it that way. You can have your own counter going that you set going that tells you how many reps you're on, or gives you like a clear rhythm or something like that. Like a metronome can give you a clear rhythm to keep going, and that can help you keep pace with the number of reps that you're trying to do. So lots of different options, test things out. Find what is right for you. Or you may think I'm crazy for spending so much time talking about this, because you may be totally fine counting while I am here talking. And that's awesome. If you've already mastered this skill, then woo, good job. All right. Quick check-in on form, because we're more than halfway through. So as we get fatigued, it can be more and more tempting to let gravity take control and pull us down. You can feel when that happens, when you're not fully in control of the motion the whole way down. If you get down here and you're sort of bouncing around like this, okay, that's really bad on your knees. So I want you, even if you're going quickly, I still want you to be in total control. Don't let yourself collapse into the bottom of the position, okay? That's the main thing. Don't collapse into it. Keep control manage every component of the movement, and you will stay stronger and more stable. Check in with that core. How's that core engagement doing? Is it still protecting the weight of the torso, making sure that the ankles and the balls of the feet are not taking on too much of a burden as they go? If not, time to re-engage, all right? You know, there's a concept that people talk about when they talk about learning meditation, where they're like, it's not about never having any thoughts, because that's impossible. It's about acknowledging that you've had a thought and then bringing your focus back to your breath. Similar concept here, okay? It's not, when you are first starting out, when you're still building up that foundation, it's not about never letting these muscle groups go. We do it all the time. I still do it every once in a while. It's about noticing when you have and then reactivating them, okay? So if you're going along and you suddenly go, oh my God, I haven't been engaging my core, no wonder I've been wobbling around. Don't beat yourself up, just re-engage your core, okay? And the more that you do that, the faster you will notice when you disengage, okay? And the faster you'll bring that back. All right, my friends, we have half a minute left, so I want to challenge you all to keep moving for these last, now probably closer to 20 seconds. All right, we've had an intense evening, an intense morning. There is a lot to do. There is a lot to work on, but you have spent an hour with me here, and I am so proud of you. And you are going to be able to take this energy, take this power, take this stamina, and go and do whatever you want to. Good job, everybody. Let's just stand really quickly, do that quad stretch really quickly. Just always good to stretch them out a little bit, especially after toe squats. There we go. There we go. We don't always have to do my favorite super involved quad stretch. I do love it, but sometimes you just want to quickly stretch out without a lot of fanfare. Well done, my friends. All right, everybody, grab your water. Yeah, I'm really glad we did this. There's a lot going on, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that everything's okay, because it's not. You know, and it hasn't been for a long time. You know, a lot of dismantling white supremacy and doing anti-racism work on ourselves, especially for the white folks watching this, is coming to terms with the fact that this country has honestly never lived up to the ideals that we've had enshrined in our various beloved documents. And part of our privilege as white people has been the ability to ignore that fact for a long time, for too long, okay? And it can feel really exhausting and overwhelming to realize the degree to which we have been ignoring a lot of horrors, a lot of horrible things that have been done in our names, in the name of this country. And it can feel really overwhelming. So again, let's start with the bare minimum. You know what? For our life bare minimum, I'm gonna make a 4-part base: food,
water, sleep, movement. Not necessarily exercise. Maybe movement is standing up and walking into your kitchen to refill your water bottle. Maybe movement is putting a mask on and going for a walk outside. Maybe movement is joining me here on the stream, okay? But let's make sure we have those basics, and let's also make sure that we are doing everything that we can to challenge, to push, to fight, okay? We cannot leave that fight to the people who are most impacted by it. We have to use our power and privilege in this white supremacist country to protect the people who for too long have not had protection. And it is more important now than ever. Well, I say that because that always feels like the thing to say, but no, it's not more important. It has always been this important. It is important. So take care of yourselves so that we can go out there and take care of the people who need it, okay? And thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday, the first full day, I believe, of the Jewish calendar. Again, Happy New Year, my friends. This is the last class of the week. So next week we'll run as usual. My vacation week is not until the week after. And so over the course of next week, I'll actually get a sense of what will be going on this channel on my vacation week. But next week is as usual. So we'll be back here starting on Tuesday at 5:45 p.m. Mountain Time, all times Mountain Time, for Perpetual Motion, the class where we never stop moving. Then on Wednesday at 4:30 p.m., we will have Jump Around, our weekly cardio class. Friday at 6 p.m., we will have Functional Home Fitness, where we do weight training using objects that you can find around the house. And Saturday, we come back around to the weekend kickoff. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Those handles will be in my end card. My YouTube channel is where I upload and store all of the VODs from these streams. And there's also going to be a lot of supplemental material going up there. So head over there and subscribe if that's your jam. Normally this is where I would plug, my coffee account, but honestly today I think take that money and do some research into Senate races where there is the potential for flipping a Republican out of office, and donate your money there. Donate to the ACLU. Donate to Planned Parenthood. And if you like these classes, like this community, please follow this channel. We're gonna keep meeting here. We're gonna keep doing these classes, keeping ourselves strong and healthy so that we can get out there and change the world for the better. So thanks for being here today, my friends. Have a great, have a great rest of your weekend. Take care of yourselves, drink water, eat food, get sleep, move your bodies, and I'll see you back here on Tuesday. Have a great day.